Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for the 2021 Santa Cruz Motorcycle Film Festival. We hope you've been enjoying the films. We are stoked today to have a few minutes with a talented filmmaker who has a feature-length film competing in this year's festival.
In 2014, Daniel Rintz and his partner Josephine took off on the adventure of a lifetime. They shipped their bikes from Germany to the United States and then traveled overland across the Americas from Canada to Ushuaia, and then shipped their bikes to Africa to ride the length of that continent on their way home to Europe. Somewhere Else Together is the highly anticipated documentary of their 3-year journey. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to share a little bit, about your journey.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Shana.
So, for those of you who may not be familiar with Daniel's story, I wanted to point out that this isn't your first long-distance motorcycle adventure, nor is it your first film. You spent 3 years riding from Germany across Europe, the Middle East, Asia, and Oceania, ending that trip in New Zealand. You made a film about that journey called Somewhere Else Tomorrow, which I can highly recommend for anyone who hasn't seen it. So were you a filmmaker before your travels, Daniel?
Well, kind of, yes. Well, I studied media design in Berlin, and motion pictures was kind of, well, animation rather, was part of the courses. But I only dared to call myself a proper filmmaker. You know, it was kind of, when you travel around the world, you cross so many borders, and at every border, you have to put down your name, your passport number, and your profession, among other things. And I also I always put designer or, I don't know, photographer or something. And then at one point I said, okay, I'm just going to call myself a filmmaker now. And I put down filmmaker, what the heck? So I guess from that moment on.
Nice.
Then it was official.
Yes.
That's fantastic. So did you feel that when you were recording on the trip, I mean, I can't imagine the way that you have to coordinate shots. You have to stop and set up a camera, ride out a frame, ride back in, get the shot you're looking for, then come back and work with the equipment. I know that there's a lot of work to it. Did that in any way affect your travels or affect the way that you made shots or filmed things for your movie?
I think yes. I think making a movie about your trip will affect your journey for sure. I mean, as you said, you have to set up shots. We also filmed each other. We used a drone to get different perspectives. We used bystanders or friends in any situation to just say, look here, hold the camera, point it at us. We're busy, I don't know, saving the bike from being, going into the river or something, whatever you do. So yes, in the right moment, you have to think about documenting, because if you don't film it, however interesting it may be for the film, it won't have happened. If you can't show it, it won't have happened. But we try to keep the interference of the camera to an absolute minimum. So we never wondered about what to film and what not to film. We just documented everything and didn't like in the back of our minds be the director of our journey and how the trip panned out. We didn't do any of this. We didn't interfere with what was happening. Only when we came back after the trip, we looked at everything and thought about what we can do with everything that we had. So during the trip, we didn't concern ourselves with it. So that means we were in the moment as much as we could, and the camera just came along with it. So yeah, I guess. And also, I mean, what we often did is that we experienced a situation first, or an encounter with some people, or whatever the adventure was. We took it in first, and then we took the camera out and documented it. Maybe repeated some things, like when we talked to someone about something very interesting, we heard it first, and then we settled down and recorded it and asked him to repeat it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I would think by keeping the camera hidden for your initial interaction, that probably made a more real interaction with that person you were encountering and built a little trust before saying, hey, I have this camera. Can I interview what we're speaking about?
Absolutely.
So if you can, tell us a little bit about the bikes on your trip. Yolanda was a 91 R80 GS and Super Marianne, the 2007 1200 GS.
Yeah, I mean, it is a motorcycle film and it was a motorcycle trip, but we don't consider ourselves bikers first. I mean, I think we're travelers first and then motorcyclists. The motorcycle gave us it was a fantastic vehicle to be immersed in foreign cultures, to just show up in a small village and then kids come running up to you and people are less intimidated, you know, compared to when you show up in a big truck or something. So that from that point of view, the motorcycle was fantastic. But it's not like I can talk about the details of the motorcycle as a motorcycle aficionado. I know how to fix it, I know how to ride it, but I don't care about making it faster or more noisy or any of this. So we didn't do a lot of modifications. We just worried about our luggage, how we can put our luggage onto the bike and get to it comfortably and quick and keep it dry and safe, things like that. But that's about all the modifications we put on, I think.
Just enough to make sure that you can keep going.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
Do you think you would have, in hindsight, chosen those bikes again for the trip, for your journey? Do you think they were well suited?
This is a very big discussion among travelers and motorcyclists. Which one is the best bike? I get into this every time I show up anywhere, any place or time, and it's fun to talk about, but it's pointless because
Is there what you had?
There's so many different bikes as there's many different people, and everyone chooses their bike for what they want to do. And we chose the bikes because we liked them, we were familiar with them, and they worked quite well for what we did. Sometimes they were more suitable, you know, on the North American highways, you know, cover a long distance between cities. It's very nice. It also, you know, it's very cool to ride down the Baja, Mexico, or the Colombian mountains where, you know, very steep hills, and it's all good. But, you know, in some places in Africa with loose sand and a lot of heat and you know, they might be a bit heavy. So, you know, sometimes they were good, sometimes they were perfect, sometimes they were not so good.
Right.
So, but there's no perfect bike, you know. But I always say the wrong bike makes for an adventure. So yes, I would choose them again.
That's the perfect way to look at it. Just in case it isn't the perfect bike, it makes a great adventure. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, fantastic. So throughout your travels, you really do such a fantastic job throughout the film, introducing us to the people that you meet along the way, and you really make us feel like we're part of the journey. We can see from the film, and then Shana and I both took a look at the website that you and Josephine have. You and Joey really seem to genuinely care about the people that you encounter during your travels and about making their lives better and improving the world in general. So throughout the film, you actually kind of help a couple of people that you interact with. And I wondered if you wanted to maybe share a couple of the projects that you worked on or ways that you helped people that you encountered along your travels, and some of those that really stuck out as the strongest memories for you.
Sure. Just to quickly elaborate on what you said. Yes, the people are the most important component for us as travelers. You know, there's so many beautiful landscapes and places and lonely places where we, you know, sat down and enjoyed the vastness of this world and the beauty of it, for sure. But all of this wouldn't matter much if there was no people. You know, I mean, the people make a place. You ride into a village or a city, and the way you are welcomed makes the place. It can be the most beautiful city, but if everyone is very cold and doesn't recognize you, or is just, you know, focused on their own thing, you know, what does a beautiful city mean then? You know, I rather be in a rundown place with lots of happy people, you know, having a party, singing, a campfire, stuff like that. So yes, we think meeting people and sharing ideas and dreams and everything, that is the big value of a traveler, meeting so many and so many different ones. And we never set out with the intention to make the world a better place or to help other people, because we're not, I think that's, I don't know if that's the wrong thing to say, but it's almost like an arrogant way of looking at it. You know, how can I be sure I will be of help, bringing whatever money or resource? I don't know. I mean, is it always true? So we set out to be ourselves, and when we encountered people who needed help or asked us for help, of course we would act. We would very naturally we would do everything we can to make this situation better. That is not a question, of course. There's a couple of things that happened by coincidence. I think the first one, I was traveling by myself at the time. That was before I met Josephine. I was in Nepal, and I was invited to help in an orphanage in Kathmandu. And I think they were just about to create this orphanage. They were just rescued kids from a corrupt organization, I think. There was like 20, 30 kids, and they were just rescued from a very bad situation. And so I saw what was happening. They were just struggling with their rent. They had to rent a big house for all the kids and then get the food and get them education and everything. And it was a very, very early stages of an organization created by a young girl, like, you know, my age, and she just saw a problem and tried to help it. So I did the same. So I reached out to the people who were following my trip at the time, social media and so on, and said, look, this is this thing. Christmas is coming up. I'm going to put a little bit of money in it from my travel budget. If you want to do the same, you're more than welcome to it. And a lot of people responded. And so after a week or so, I had to go to the ATM like 3 times a day, because there was a limit of what kind of money they would spit out. So I had to draw money in different places, different banks, several times a day, and then give them a chunk of money from all the people who donated that would then keep the orphanage afloat for I don't know, a couple months, half a year or something. That was fantastic also for everyone who donated, because I made a video about how we could make these kids a little Christmas celebration, and so that was very wonderful. And Joey and I, we came back to the same place exactly about 10 years later, and the kids some of the kids were still there, and And it was just wonderful to see what it has become because of people like, those who helped me help them. They had a proper building, they had proper school going on, and they had a wall with some brass plaques with names on it, with all the people that helped them to get where they are. And and one plaque had my name on it. It said Daniel and his friends. So that was wonderful. And
That's
on
wonderful.
the second leg of the trip, when Joey and I started in New York and then rode down in Central America and Guatemala, we just came across this foundation in Antigua. And I don't know, I think someone who knew about the Integral Heart Foundation, we met them on the road and they mentioned us, and then they said, why don't you go there and speak about your journey in front of the kids? And we did. And then some of the kids were very inspired, and two sisters, they took us to their home on the foothills of the city, and we got to meet their mom, and we learned that the father had left the family. He just, I don't know. It's very harsh for a lot of people in Guatemala. Very tough living. It's hard to find jobs, and people commute long ways. And anyway, so there was just three kids, three sisters, and the mom, and they had no electricity in the house, no running water in the house. It was a very basic building. So we looked at ways of how to get them electricity. So we talked to the city. We used the contacts of the foundation to make their situation a little better. But it turned out that the next, what do you call it, where the big power lines is too far away to their house. So we couldn't really get them on the grid. But we ran a, what do you call it? A little campaign, and we got some solar lanterns, like a bunch of them, donated, and this whole neighborhood, we gave a lot of solar lamps away, and that kind of helped them a little bit, because it gets dark at 6. It's kind of in this southern, it's not too far away from the equator, so you have only 12 hours of daylight every all around the year. So yeah, so it helped them a little bit, and things like that. It's nothing major, nothing big, but when we see a problem and we have the ability to help it, sure, we do it. Yeah,
And they may not seem like big differences that you're making maybe to you, but I'm certain it is a huge difference for the people that you're impacting. And those things that may be small for us may be very big for some of those people that are in need. So those are all great things.
And it was really inspiring to watch you interacting throughout your travels. And like you said, it was just what you do. You see somebody that could use help in any way. And I kind of think the world would be a much better place if that's how everyone viewed things. Not in an arrogant way that you can make things better, but just you see somebody that needs something and you try to make it come to fruition for them. So do you have information on your website for anyone that may be interested in learning more about the orphanage in Nepal or the school in Guatemala, if they're interested in helping?
Oh yeah, sure. There's a link to both the places, and also a link to their websites. It can be found easily on our website. Yes.
And what is your website?
Oh, right. It's open-explorers.com.
open-explorers.com. Thank you.
We'll be sure to put that in the interview notes for anyone that's looking to follow it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So tell us, what have you and Josephine been doing since you got home?
Oh, wow.
Lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff. We made this. We made the second film. We finished it. Hang on. What do we have now? 2021. We finished it just before the pandemic hit. We tried to get into cinemas, and we had a good run for a couple of weeks, and then everything closed.
Of course.
So
yeah.
So we finished the film, and we also had, obviously, we had all the experiences that we had together. We had them ferment in the back of our heads and kind of set the trajectory of our lives in a way. It kind of takes a while. I mean, we've been on the road for 3 years in a row, and every day is different. You meet new people, and you have to adapt, and the situations are changing all the time. We really came to a point where we were full, saturated. We couldn't take in any more information, basically. And you could say ever since we got back, we have been processing this information, and now I think we're getting into the phase where we slowly start to do something with it, thinking about new projects, new things that are maybe necessary for us or the world, or things we can do, or I mean, there's nothing concrete I can already announce, but I can assure everyone that traveling and interacting with foreign cultures and exotic places will always be part of what we do. So I guess it's been a time of processing and planning.
Yeah, of course.
So you just said you have no concrete plans, and we can see on your website that you have everywhere on your list for travel destinations.
Yeah.
But we're really
way
curious.
to cover it.
It's just
Everywhere.
all of it. We're really curious what your priority list would be, like where you would really like to go next, or to make sure you visit. What are kind of those top spots for where you and Joey are thinking?
Right. We both like to go to Madagascar at some point. That must be a very different place to everything else. We would love to go to Mongolia and enjoy the vast open spaces. I'm personally very interested in the Japanese culture, in the very densely populated cities, and how efficient and streamlined everything works. And I'm not sure if that's something for me, but I'm just curious about it. Then there's a couple of places we would like to revisit. Of course, we had a fantastic time in Colombia. Everyone we met, every other traveler said the same thing. We could maybe it could happen that we start to live in a different for a couple of years. Who knows where? I mean, could be. Joey liked Argentina a lot. I can't think of the capital right now. Buenos Aires.
Right.
She really enjoyed Buenos Aires. That could be something we could do. Who knows? I mean, what else?
It's a big world.
We'll
We will stay tuned. I'm just curious, will motorcycles be part of that?
I think so. I don't think I'll go on a long distance trip again. That has been fully satisfied in the past 6 years. We've been on the bike every day. We've been riding long distances, far away places, and it's been great to have the motorcycle. As I mentioned earlier, the way you're perceived and the way you dive into a place, it's very fantastic. But it's also limiting in one way, especially we notice this especially in Africa. If you want to go really remote and watch wild animals in faraway places where there's no infrastructure, the motorcycle isn't the best way because, first of all, they won't let you into these game parks because it's too dangerous. And second of all, you can't carry sufficient water and food to stay, off the grid for a couple of weeks. So the motorcycle is fantastic, but also limiting. I could easily imagine like a combination of a little four-wheeler vehicle or something and a motorcycle on the back to quickly go up the mountain, enjoy the view, or get breakfast in the morning or something like that.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, but two wheels are always fun, so it'll always be part of what we do, I think.
Right. And do you ride motorcycles at home in Germany?
I mean, our bikes are registered and ready to go, but we haven't done much riding. I've been riding my bicycle a lot because you can go out in the woods and small single trails and single tracks and do that. But that sounds very arrogant to say, but it's the truth. After riding around the world on a motorcycle, I'm not super excited in getting stuck in traffic and riding around the area that I know so well. So,
right.
Yeah,
I think that makes sense. It doesn't sound arrogant to me. I get it.
Yes, but we still have them. Yes.
Good.
So the whole reason we're speaking with you today is because of your films. How can people find them? I mean, obviously, Somewhere Else Together is showing at our film festival, but Somewhere Else Tomorrow and Somewhere Else Together, where can people find your films?
I'm working with a distributor, or actually two. One distributor for the first film and another one for the second film. And they're constantly working on getting them onto all kinds of platforms. And I think so far they've been put on iTunes and Amazon Prime and similar places. I think Vimeo as well. They've also been shown on some TV stations around Europe, but it always changes slightly, due to I don't know, there's some political stuff involved and this region collides with whatever, I don't know.
Right.
So, but you can find them if you Google it, you can find them. I think they're definitely on the big platforms like iTunes and Amazon, not on Netflix as far as I know. But maybe the next film, who knows?
Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye out for them. And I can say we are so happy to have Somewhere Else Together as part of our festival this year. And good luck in the competition. But it is an official selection because it's a fantastic film and we all really enjoyed it. So
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, very much. So just looking for some thoughts or any parting words of wisdom that you have for any aspiring filmmakers or travelers. Obviously, you've got a couple of full-length feature films under your belt and a lot of experience with that. What words of wisdom would you give to maybe beginning filmmakers or beginning world travelers?
All right. Okay.
Not to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. To any aspiring filmmaker, I would say, don't do it. It doesn't pay. Unless you really, really have to do it. Your soul is aching and you must do it. Okay, do it. But if you want to make a career out of it, gee, man, there's better ways. There's better ways to make some cash and then sit somewhere in a nice place on a mountain and enjoy the sunset. It's so much work for very little money. But it can be an enjoyable process. Obviously, you learn a lot about yourself if you're the protagonist. And if you're not the protagonist, it's also a very good way of learning about the world and people. It has a lot of psychology in it. It's a fantastic job in that way. But it's not about fame and money for sure. I mean, Steven Spielberg would probably paint a different picture, but for a lot of filmmakers, it isn't. And for aspiring travelers, there's not much to say except do it. set a date when you want to leave, tell everyone about it so you can't pike out, and then do it. Do it. It'll change your life. It'll enrich your life. It'll make yourself more happy. At least that's what I've seen with myself and everyone else I've met on the road. It is just, it changes your horizon. It's a wonderful way to be.
Wonderful. Those are great words of wisdom. So thank you, Daniel. And thank you so much for being part of our festival and for making the time to have a conversation with us today. We really appreciate it. Best of luck to you and Jody and all your future travels and plans and projects. And we will stay tuned. So thank you for letting us know you've got stuff maybe on the horizon.
Thank you so much.
All righty. Take care. Thanks.
Take care.
Cheers.